Hindenburg shelling. A report appeared, as you know, viewers, last month on the 25th of January, and it suggested that there were a large number of misdemeanors that were covered up by Mr. Adani, and that meant that he was actually going out there with information that didn't quite represent the true state of affairs within his empire. As stocks tumbled on the day after the report came out, and also on February 1st, just yesterday, Gautam Adani went on television to announce that he had called off the rupees 20,000 crore follow-on public offer. The announcement to say that he was doing this to shield his investors and would return their money didn't really help Adani Enterprise shares as they continued to plummet for the second consecutive day. The 106-page Hindenburg research report has left a $100 billion deep hole, it is said, in the pockets of investors in Adani stocks within just the last 6 days, viewers. This translates into a loss of 43% for the 10 Adani companies when it comes to market cap. To give you an idea, let's show you the stocks of 3 Adani companies and the way they have nosedived after the Hindenburg report was made public on the 25th of January. Here's a graph, and you can see this very clearly, viewers. We are now looking at the valuations, the stock prices of Adani Enterprises, and you can see that graph. So from January 25th, the day the report was made public, you can see, viewers, that there has been a decline. And this is true, viewers, not just of Adani Enterprises, but also of other companies. Adani Ports, there you can see, it was at one point before the Hindenburg report at 761 rupees. The share today, it is at 462, viewers. So you can see an almost 40% erosion or thereabouts. Let me take you on to another company, and that is Adani Green Energy. There you can see it on your screens, viewers. There again, we have a situation where the stocks have plummeted. And viewers, whichever way you cut it, it's quite clear that this report has really bitten into the stock prices. And that's really a different way of looking at this entire volatility of the portfolio. That's the day, January 24th, then abouts, when the Hindenburg report came out. And after that, you can see, viewers, it's just been free fall. But it's not just investors that bailed out Adani that are feeling the heat. The feeling is that a lot of these losses may be coming out of your pocket as well. Some of the big central financial institutions like LIC and SBI have invested in Adani stocks, some reportedly even after the Hindenburg strike, or when the stock started plummeting after the Hindenburg report was out. Now let's just talk a little bit about the exposure of these PSU giants, viewers, in Adani's portfolio. So 0.975% LIC exposure to Adani Group. Let's look at other numbers. That comes to about 30,000 crores. 30,000 crores of public money is invested in Adani Group as on 30th January 2023, which is just about 4 days back. 0.55%, less than a percent, estimate banking exposure to Adani Group. Now, when you look at the group numbers, obviously, viewers, this is very, very small. But if you really break it down, it comes to a pretty packet. According to CLSA investment firm, about 2.1 lakh crore, that's a very substantial number, viewers, is tied up in Adani stocks. 3.4% of Adani Enterprises are held by Indian mutual funds. 2.8% of Adani total gas held by Indian mutual funds. All of these are estimates, viewers, because We still don't have official figures, but this is what certain experts who look into the entire structure, etc., of Adani companies, this is what they have claimed. 3.6 of Adani Green Energy held by Indian mutual funds. So there is a significant amount of exposure to Adani stocks. Viewers, given the potential risk, as it is being claimed by the opposition, to public savings, many political parties in opposition are now demanding a JPC or even a Chief Justice of India monitored probe into the matter. Repeatedly, they disrupted Parliament today, demanding a debate on the issue. Listen in to some of the reactions that have been coming in from the opposition.
हमारी मांग ये है कि या तो जॉइंट पार्लियामेंट्री कमेटी बनाओ और इसकी इंक्वायरी करो, या नहीं है तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस के नेतृत्व में कमेटी बनाकर इसको इंक्वायरी कराई है और डे टू डे रिपोर्ट बाहर करते जाइए.
My government must explain about the institutional oversight failure. If there was any failure at all, otherwise the government must come and say, no, the institutional oversight was perfect. They must explain that, but the government is only maintaining a silence.
इतनी बड़ी रिपोर्ट सामने आई है, 2 साल की रिसर्च के बाद आई है, जो ओवर प्राइसिंग की बात कर रही है, मार्केट मैनिपुलेशन की बात कर रही है, और उस पर आप संज्ञान नहीं ले रहे हो. ये दुखद है. जिस तरीके से कल पैसा वाइप आउट हुआ है जनता का, ये दुखदाई है.
We are saying the whole thing is morally incorrect, and we want an investigation, proper investigation into what has happened.
भारत के प्रधानमंत्री को सामने आके लोगों की चिंता दूर करनी चाहिए. भारत की वित्त मंत्री को सामने आकर ये बताना चाहिए कि आरबीआई क्या कर रही है, सेबी क्या कर रही है, ईडी क्या कर रही है, सीबीआई क्या कर रही है. इतने बड़े भ्रष्टाचार पर अब तक पूरी सरकार खामोश क्यों है?
At a time when the crony capitalism is ruling the roost in the business cycle and the stock exchanges are being shattered by that, there is a report coming from Hindenburg saying that there is kind of a manipulations, stock manipulations have been done, and many things have been said. We need to probe into that, and I tell you, other probe will not do. I am asking for the joint parliamentary committee to probe that.
Well, here you are, viewers, a cross-section of politicians making these claims. Mr. Gautam Adani himself has come out and defended not just his decision to roll back the FPO, but also, viewers, assuring investors that his companies are managed very well, are solvent, and most importantly, there aren't any irregularities. Listen in.
For me, the interest of my investor is paramount and everything is secondary. Hence, to insulate the investors from potential losses, we have withdrawn the FPO. This decision will not have any impact on our existing operations as well as our future plans. The fundamentals of our company are very strong. Our balance sheet is healthy, and we have an impeccable track record of fulfilling our debt obligations.
You just heard Mr. Adani there, not just him, but even LIC, SBI and the finance secretaries have rushed in to assure investors and calm nerves, soothe them. Listen in, viewers.
Our exposure is to the assets, physical assets, and they are having adequate cash generation, and we have not experienced in the past any kind of a default from this entity, and we don't expect that we will have any challenge because the assets are having very robust cash flows.
I think the exposure to any one company is so small that to connect the fortunes of any one company with those of either LIC or nationalized banks is, I think, not very justified or rational.
Its ability to repay a loan depends on the profits, on the cash flows, which the banks believe are sufficient. The valuations is what the markets are looking at. It's not the cash flows, and the cash flows are looked after by the banks.
Viewers, the RBI has also sought details from local banks of their exposure to Adani stocks, Adani companies. let me give you a quick overview. There are many also viewers who have come out and said that the Adani debt is quite secure. It's not as if the Adanis don't have assets and that these are loans that are unsecured in any which way. For those who are interested in the facts, viewers, Adani's debt, 35,000 crores, but Adani assets run into more than 5 trillion rupees. This is what the claim is. So this is what is being said. This is according to Forbes magazine. Rupees 1 lakh crore of assets in power sector. Adani ports generating enough cash to service loans. So what we are being told now. Already one bid to redevelop the Dharavi slum, only 30% debt of Adani Group is with public banks, and $7 billion been offered by JSW for Ambuja Cement. So they have more than enough cash, they claim, solvency, assets, etc. So no taxpayer needs to fear. They can cover their debt. So let's open this up, viewers, because obviously a large number of these assurances are being completely dismissed out of hand. And I want to begin by asking some basic questions. I want to start with Manish Barriarr, policymaker, and I want to ask him straight off the bat. Mr. Barriarr, have taxpayer savings been risked by LIC, SBI, and other PSU banks by buying Adani's stocks? Is this true?
Good evening to all my co-panelists and viewers. I would disagree with that because, Adani is performing. If you look at, its performance, especially the stock market performance over a period of time, it has given consistent returns to its investors. And most of the, even the financial institutions and PSUs, LIC, if you look at any, they have generally exposure to blue chip companies and some of the medium stocks. So normally LIC would always invest in companies which are rated better, so AAA rating, and the bonds are also rated properly. So when they took these kind of decisions at that time, I don't think there was incorrect decisions, but we understand that when it comes to stock market, sometimes you may go wrong. And when the stock market was very high, I don't think anybody was questioning that. So I would disagree with that. I don't think that could be the reason why one can really criticize LIC. And if you look at LIC's exposure, the exposure is also quite low. So in comparison to some of the other like foreign banks and financial institutions, their exposure is pretty high in Adani. But I was looking at some of the data. I felt that, stock market is about perception. It's about psychology. It's about macro environment. So macro global environment is not very conducive. So any kind of, I would say that the stocks were, people who are experts, they would know, they were primed for going down. There are a number of stocks which have come down, but obviously, Adani has taken the lead because it's such a, it's such a large company, and for so many other reasons, Adani has always been in news. So I think these are the reasons why you see what is happening with Adani. But Hindenburg report came at just the, you will say, wrong time for Adani. My personal opinion is that they should have not gone ahead with that FPO, because I think that was something which was, there was, if you look at the, stock prices, there was 10 to 15% difference in the market price and the FPO which was there. Any stock which has a difference of around 15%, it would have very low kind of response from the normal general janta and public, which happened in this. So 35%. I think that also spooked the market, because once the news came that almost 65% of its subscription is through institutional investors and HNIs and stuff like that. And stock market is all about perception. So in perception game, I think Adani was slightly on the lower side. So they did not really use the information kind of the way they should have informed people and the general, and the kind of alacrity they should have showed.
No, but that's a barrier. You yourself have suggested that this report came out at a certain time, and after that, sort of all hell broke loose. So I want to ask you, if there was no truth to this report, then retail investors and others would have ignored it. But
absolutely. I felt that, Hindenburg report, I would call it.
to this report?
So I would question the report. I will call it a virus, very, a virus which has been planted very deliberately, looking at India's growth in future. But, moving ahead, I would like to, share something very, very strange which has happened today. And it happens always with our corporates, with our opposition parties. It is, I looked at some of the statements with due respect. Those statements I did not find in good taste, because it seemed that without understanding the ramifications of statements made by top opposition leaders on the market, on the stock market itself. And since it's about perception, so if you talk about one share, one company, the entire market actually takes it negatively. And they should have been much more responsible in doing so.
So you're saying it's the opposition with its sort of alarmist reaction.
I agree with that. It's alarmist.
Actually let down the Aam Admi investor.
Look at Rahul. You look at globally what is happening to Pfizer. About lot of reports are coming out, and a lot of things are coming out about Pfizer in US about the way they have handled this vaccine story. But did you find any statement coming out from any of the top leaders, politicians in US? If you go back, look at how French president really was very unhappy when there was a submarine deal.
1 second, Mr. Barriarr, I understand that maybe there's a big conspiracy, this, that. I mean, the BBC film was also described as a conspiracy.
Rahul, I have a problem that Indian leaders, I'm sorry, really sorry, just complete. Indian leaders, they don't take pride within our companies which are going global, they are becoming big, multinationals. Okay. They, instead of that, they pillar it very badly. I think that is something which is very questionable.
Okay, so you're saying it's a motivator. I just want to ask you, because when the Adani Group responded to Hindenburg, it said that this is an attack on India, it's an attempt to sort of bring down India's pride of place, etc. And yes, of course, with the meltdown, you're going to have questions now obviously asked really of the way the Indian markets are regulated, etc., etc. And it can have a massive impact on investor confidence. And at a time when India is really poised and is the strongest economy in the world, this is very bad news. So let's obviously acknowledge that. But I just want to ask you this, because it's an important question. The Hindenburg Group came out and said, sue us. We'll be more than glad. Come, let's fight it out in US courts. Come sue us. But the Adanis haven't. They've threatened, but they haven't. Why?
Rahul, if you look at their report has not stated anything new.
No, true.
Most of the points are there. It's all in the public domain.
40%. I mean, Mr. Adani has gone down from being, I think, the second richest man now to the 18th. He's almost out of the top 20. This is a severe setback. This is not and we don't even know how long the overhang will be on Adani shares and stocks. Why hasn't he sued this company, this Hindenburg research company, these bunch of short sellers?
Rahul, I would say that Adani's response was not that strong and professional the way it should have been. And I think it could have been handled better. This is my own personal opinion. That is one. Second, as you talked about, Hindenburg is a short seller. Yeah. And they would have vested interest in, especially if you look at Indian stock market, it has not gone down as such vis-a-vis the other markets, right? So we've not risen a lot, but we've not gone down. So, and Adani has risen dramatically over a period of time.
Okay.
So attacking Adani could be a very concerted effort to increase its profitability, because there was a very high chance that if they attack Adani at this time, and short sellers earn money on that,
right?
It is very much possible.
So there is a conflict of interest, you're saying?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of question mark on that.
Yeah, there is no question mark. That's the methodology. And there are a bunch of shorts with the Modi government, this, that, the other. This is a hit job. And you've got the perfect excuse. You're overlooking the fact that there could be conflict of interest here. We don't even know who Hindenburg has been put up by, this, that, the other. There are a hell of a lot of things that Mr. Barriarr has talked about. Now, I just want to ask you a very simple question. You're a sympathizer of the Congress party. You have deep ties to the Congress party. Adani is doing big business in Congress-ruled Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and left-ruled Kerala, allies of yours. He's courted by Mamata in Bengal and has interests in Punjab under the Aam Admi party. These are all opposition rule states. I would presume, because of the great threat to investors, all these deals in the interests of upholding moral principles and public interest would be cancelled. I had asked this question a couple of days back also of our panelists, and I didn't get any sort of convincing response. So why hasn't the opposition moved quickly? I mean, airports are being built, ports are being built. In Rajasthan, there's 15,000 crores that is being sort of money that the Rajasthan government is looking from Adani. If he's looting public banks against assets that don't exist, you should immediately put a stop to this. Otherwise, you're going to be part of a circus.
Rahul, good evening. Namaskar to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. And Rahul, you more than anyone else in this esteemed panelists know that that's not the way business functions. One, entrepreneurship must be encouraged. Business must be encouraged. What should be discouraged is crony capitalism. Now, let me come to this report specifically, but before that, let me say some good things about Adani before I come to this report. What Mr. Barriarr rightly said, Mr. Adani has some stable businesses. He's generating a good cash flow and he has a certain amount of monopoly. That so far with Mr. Adani seems so far to be good. His balance sheet at the moment seems good. What is the question that is being raised and what has he tried to hide behind the garb of nationalism? What must be answered? What Mr. Adani hasn't answered is the question of manipulation in stock market, triggering the price, the extreme price right that Mr. Barriarr spoke about, and the funds that have come in through Mauritius, through shell companies controlled by his older brother, to whom he says, look, you don't understand how business is conducted in India. This is how business is conducted. I have no ties with my real brother who's seen holding the Adani flag. Now, those are the questions that need specific answers.
That's true.
Just give me a minute.
I'm not stopping anyone from asking those questions either, but I'm only asking you. No, 1 second. Mr. Poonawalla, you raised the point. I didn't. You said that there is more than an element of cronyism, etc. here. Now, I just want to ask you, morally, if there is so much taint, and if this person is using public money because of his great buddy connections, as you claim, to the government, and it's all unsecured and perhaps dodgy, then why is the Congress doing business with Adani in their states?
So, once again, with humility, sir, these facts are completely misplaced and irrelevant. A, Mr. Adani has reduced his debt in India, particularly public sector units. And I want to tell your viewers, nor will LIC or SBI.
Sir, I'm only talking about morality here. I'm not talking about the specifics, because neither are you qualified and neither am I qualified.
Sir, actually I am. So, I have also invested in the company. I am very well qualified. Okay. But sir, if you allow me to make my point.
Company.
Yes, sir. And if you, and for sake of disclosure, may I please put that out? Yes, sir. So may I please put that out? I've read both the reports, including Mr. Adani's denial. So please allow me to make my point, because then you interrupt, sir, the flow breaks. So please allow me, kindly. Yes. So first, neither is LIC going to sink, neither is SBI going to sink. No public sector units are going to sink. Let's get that out of the way. What is the question that is being raised right now, which is very important, that needs to be answered? So one, I spoke about the Mauritius shell companies that have not been answered. Now, this is not an attack on Mr. Adani or the Adani Group. This is a question that SEBI, our regulators, RBI, and the government of India must answer, not because it's Mr. Adani, but because brand India should not be affected. So I have a solution, and I will end here. My solution is simply this. I'm not going to say Mr. Adani is guilty. I'm going to say let the government come out immediately with an open, transparent report, because in March, you're going to have India's by S&P. I'll explain to you. Just give me 30 seconds. So, Tushar, it's not misunderstood. In March, you're going to have S&P, Fitch, and Moody's come out with India rating. Now, you don't want India's rating downgraded, saying that India's institutions, SEBI, RBI, allow for funds coming in from shell companies. I am not saying Mr. Adani's gotten funds from shell companies. I am saying let the government put out the report.
No, 1 second. Now, just hold your horses. Tehseen Poonawalla, look. Now, 1 second. I am seeing Tehseen. I just want to say one thing. Tehseen Poonawalla is playing the nationalist card. He's saying brand India.
And Mr. Adani isn't.
1 second, sir. I'm saying he has. I'm not denying it.
Thank you. And shouldn't we answer the questions about shell companies?
Poonawalla, I can't understand this. Since you are so committed, the Congress party is so committed to brand India. I mean, they were once committed to brand Kingfisher, but that's a different matter. Dr. Manmohan Singh gave lots of loans knowing fully well that brand Kingfisher couldn't perhaps repay them, but that's okay. That's all on record. No, forget that. Brand India didn't count for much. Brand Kingfisher did. Same thing he's saying is what Mr. Modi is doing. Brand Adani counts for more than Brand India. So, viewers, if I'm asking you this question now, if Mr. Adani is such a blot on Brand India, then why is the opposition doing business with him and furthering his interests?
You know, ironically, Rahul, the biggest solar energy park by Adani is located in Rajasthan. So if the Congress understands that this is crony capitalism, this is not the kind of capitalism we need in India, why do business with such a company? But Rahul, here's another question I want to ask, because for the last week, everyone has been questioning the credibility of the Adani Group. They have been questioning their reply. They have been questioning the 400-page document they came out with. No one is asking that the companies raising these allegations against Adani, what's their credibility? Let's start with the Hindenburg Group. A group of short sellers. Short sellers are not uncommon to the market. It's very common, be it India, be it abroad. They in their reports say that India is not a proper democracy and all that thing. But if you look at the number of Chinese companies that have been listed on the Wall Street since 2008, I mean, to the matter of tune of hundreds, we did not see Hindenburg coming out with one single report. The Norwegian Wealth Fund came out and said, oh, we are not sure about the human rights abuses when it comes to Adani companies. You know which is the big one country which Norway supplies crude petroleum to, making up for 50% of Norway's exports? It's China. But we never hear about this wealth fund questioning the human rights abuses there. Credit Suisse, another company raising allegations against Adani. Fair enough. You know, Rahul, how much Credit Suisse is down in its share price by the last year? 60%. It's down 60% since last year. And here's something more interesting. Until October 2022, it was paying fines for the irregularities that was seen in the 2008 financial crisis. So Credit Suisse, a company that was selling garbage as a gift to investors in 2008, is today telling an Indian company what is right and what is wrong. My problem is not that people are asking Adani some tough questions. My problem is that the ones making these allegations, the foreign agents, short sellers, credit rating agencies, whoever, their credibility is not being questioned. And one final point, everyone is talking about LIC, everyone is saying, oh look, there is a 30,000 crore rupee exposure. That was the purchase value of LIC when it came to Adani Holdings. 30,000 crore was the purchase value. You know what's the market value today as on January 27th? It's 56,000 crore. The LIC is saying that even with all the bloodbath that Adani is going through, even with all the reports, even with all the allegations, our holding, which make up for less than 1% of our complete holdings, are still in the green. So where does this question of the public money sinking really come from? And one final point, Rahul. This is investor money. Let's not be very sentimental about it. It's the stock market. It's a place for tough players. Let's not be sentimental. Why are some opposition leaders very happy about institutional investors and retail investors losing their money in Adani stock? People do not invest looking at the BJP or the Congress. They invest because they want to invest. So my question is, why would any opposition leader be happy or excited by the prospect of an Indian investor losing money because of a report filed by a less credible company or an agency from abroad? These are some tough questions that need to be asked.
Dr. Mehrotra, would you like to respond?
What should I be responding to? I mean, if you've got bhakts on your channel,
so what?
Look,
no, is Credit Suisse not down by 60% since last year? Is Credit Suisse not paying fines for the 2008 irregularities?
Gentlemen, 1 second. No, 1 second. Look,
is Credit Suisse not paying fines for the irregularities that was seen in the 2008 crisis?
Mr. Gupta,
Dr. Mehrotra.
Don't think you can talk rubbish over me.
Dr. Mehrotra, 1 second, please. You have no right to question anyone's political inclination.
Why are you not stopping Tushar Gupta?
1 second, Dr. Mehrotra, you started
No, just a minute. Why is he interrupting me?
I'll tell you
why. Why is he interrupting me? You didn't stop him.
Because you hit him below the belt. That doesn't behove you, sir. You have surely better points to make than some.
Okay, may I start?
Blow. And that is not the way. If you want, no, hang on, just a minute. If you want anyone who speaks from a different point of view to be banned, then what does that make you, sir? What does that make you? It certainly doesn't speak of your liberal connections.
I haven't even started,
so
Rahul. May I start?
Let people subscribe to whatever ideology. They might be black.
Rahul, it's not about the ideology.
No, 1 second.
It's about facts.
It doesn't matter.
May I?
I'm coming back now.
It's about facts.
I asked you, Dr. Mehrotra, not to ask, not to question whether he's a bhakt or he is a whatever. Please answer the questions he has raised. He's raised some questions. Please.
I'm not here to answer questions from your panelists. I am here to answer questions to you, Rahul.
So let me ask you.
So first of all,
why
let's
are you
just
taking,
speak about
let me ask you.
Mr.
Is it
Adani.
unreasonable? Is it unreasonable to believe that the Hindenburg group of short sellers doesn't have a vested interest? Number one. Number two, that this particular report, supposedly the Hindenburg lot were looking into the antecedents of Mr. Adani for several years, but timed it before an FPO. Could it be possible that there is a conflict of interest here? Could it also be possible that the opposition is making such a big deal because in practice they subscribe, they welcome Adani and his money. However morally inappropriate it might be today for them, they invite it into their states. Why shouldn't we believe this is a hit job? This is a question.
So let me start with your Hindenburg question. The fact of the matter is that Hindenburg, everyone knows, is a short seller, and doing short selling is done in our country, it's done in America, and it's not illegal. So why are we surprised? More important points than the Hindenburg report are the following. First of all, why is it that Indian mutual funds have not been investing at all in Adani companies? Someone should answer that question. Point one. Point two, what is Mr. Adani's answer to the issue raised about share price manipulation by foreign shell companies? That's the second point. The third point is that LIC has allocated 1% of its assets under management into one company, one set of companies, Adani. Why? How come? This is a real issue. Fourthly, we know that 88,000 crores worth of public sector banks, Indian banks' money has been allocated to Adani Group. And it's obviously public money. It's for us as citizens, and it's for the regulators, SEBI and RBI, to be concerned.
Okay.
And finally, the final point is that it raises questions about corporate governance in our country, and especially about corporate governance in a group of companies which 3 years ago had net worth of $20 billion. Within 3 years, it has acquired a large number of assets, and its net worth has shot up to $120 billion. Would not our regulators, or should not our regulators, be asking questions about how come in a matter of 3 years a company goes from $20 billion to $120 billion and becomes a monopolist in a variety of sectors? So these are questions. I don't care what the other parties are doing or saying. I genuinely do not care. My concern as an economist is, what's the state of corporate governance? What's the state of regulators? What's the state of corporate governance in LIC?
Let me step in. Very good, very passionate, very lovely. You began by saying Hindenburg is a short seller. Why are we surprised? The whole point is that we're not. And that is what Mr. Barriarr has said. That is what Tushar has said. He has said that because they are short sellers who buy when stocks fall, it was within their interests to put out a so-called gamed report
Rahul,
on the Adani.
I know this.
No, so you are conceding. Hang on. We can't. No, 1 second. Let me finish, sir. Dr. Mehrotra, let me finish.
There's nothing to concede, Baba.
No, if you are conceding that point, then why are we debating this? Because it is because of Mr. Hindenburg or whatever the people's names are, their report, that the stocks tanked. And therefore, these questions of corporate governance, etc., that's the source
Rahul,
of it.
we know why we are debating.
So then, if the report is motivated...
months ago, from a Fitch rating, CLSA report... No, hold on. May I finish?
Please.
We knew from months ago that CLSA, Fitch ratings, had already reported to us that this is a highly over-leveraged group, and I think that has been demonstrated. And we also still must ask the question, why are Indian mutual funds not investing in the Adani Group of companies?
Yeah, I'll bring in...
Someone has to answer that question.
Barrier wants to respond to you. Yeah, Mr. Barrier, go ahead.
In fact, 2 points. One, they have an exposure of somewhere around 35,000 crore, Indian mutual funds with Adani. And why would they really, buy new shares? They are independent companies. They look at their shareholders' interest. Adani's valuations have reached pretty, high proportions, which good mutual fund manager would invest in such a high PE ratio company. So, and that happens for almost all the companies. So I don't think any fishy in the fact that Indian mutual funds are not buying. They are not buying many other stocks, right? It's not only about Adani. Why single out Adani for that? I fail to really understand this.
Okay. Why single out Adani, Ashutosh ji? And secondly, do you also grudge the exponentially quick rise of Mr. Adani? Because I can tell you, a large number of companies that went from naught to the world's biggest in a very short span of time. In today's world, that's quite possible. And I will list those to you in just a few moments. But Dr. Ashutosh, I just want to ask you this, and it's a fundamental question. I accept that there should be an inquiry. Of course there should be. Why shouldn't there be? Why should there be any holy cows in this country? Let us inquire into this particular company. No problems. But I want to ask you, if the color of the money is not good, if there is a moral issue, why is the opposition doing business? In fact, why is it fawning over itself to do business with Adani? I can't understand this contradiction. Can you explain it to me? You're on mute, Ashutosh ji.
Rahul, I never thought that opposition today again will be blamed for any wrongdoing. Anyway, that has been the narrative of this country, so I can't help it. Two things. First of all, I thought and I was expecting that this panel should be discussing the merits of the Hindenburg report. Whether the report is fudgy or the report is true. There can't be two things. Either it is fudgy, बकवास है, कूड़ेदान में फेंकने लायक है, या इसमें ट्रूथ है. तीसरी चीज तो हो नहीं सकती. So my point is, if the serious allegation has been leveled by a company A, B, C, or D, why it should not be investigated? Instead of that, my dear friend Tushar Gupta and Manish, they are beating around the bush. They are killing the Hindenburg research company, something like that. That this is happening, that is happening. What is going on? There is a serious allegation. In this country, the Bofors never been proved that there was some wrongdoing was done or not, whether Rajiv Gandhi was involved or not. In 2G case, the man was behind the bar for many years, and finally the Supreme Court has said clean chit, has given the clean chit. Now, Suresh Kalmadi has not been proved convicted till this date.
Okay.
But here there are certain cows, and since this man belongs to the most powerful man in this country, who should not be touched, who should not be questioned. So how dare you question Mr. Adani? That's the narrative. Unfortunately,
but Ashutosh ji, Ashutosh ji, one second. Ashutosh ji, one second. Have you forgotten that Mr. Adani's businesses came up in the 80s, and he's done business with even Rajiv Gandhi?
I can't hear you, Rahul.
He was also doing business with Rajiv Gandhi. He himself has come out and said it's not been ever contradicted.
I'm only saying all the six panel, including you, are you in favor of an investigation?
I have said so. I think everyone is in favor of... No, 1 second.
No. Tushar Gupta has not uttered a word.
1 minute, please.
Manish Barriarr has not uttered a word on this.
Ashutosh, number one, we are... No, 1 second. Let me tell you, viewers, I'll tell you where we are. We are with stock holders. We are with the Aam Admi. Whichever way you look at it, they are the losers. The stock collapses. No, let me finish. Ashutosh, one second. One second. Sir,
let
please.
Tushar and the Manish come out openly and say,
sir, you're not.
A time-bound investigation.
Sir, sir, one second. You're not allowing me to.
On what grounds?
One second. One second. One second. Mr. Gupta, 1 minute. Please allow me just to make my point here because the question was first asked to me. Just give me 30 seconds, please, gentlemen.
That the 2G was investigated or not, the Bofors was investigated.
Okay, gentlemen, don't speak over each other. Just give me 30 seconds. I understand. Look, viewers.
All of them proved to be a non-entity.
Okay, so let me tell you, viewers, this is very important.
So you want
no, one second, please. Just 1 second. This is very, very important. I want to say very, very clearly that we should all push for an investigation, no problems. There's no problems. No one has a problem with that. I just want to make one point, viewers. It's not just stockholders that lose, viewers, when they make bad investments. They also lose when collapses are triggered by vested interests. Absolutely. This is a fair question. Exactly. Fair enough. Mr. Adani runs the worst company on earth. You could say that. Dr. Mehrotra is within his rights. And if people are losing because of this, an investigation must be done. But if investors are losing because of a scurrilous attack, which has no basis, by people with vested interests, there's a problem. Ishkan Bhandari, would you like to come in on this?
Rahul, since I'm speaking last, I hope nobody will interrupt me. The $100 billion question is this: is the Hindenburg report true or is it a hit job? The stock price falling proves neither. If it is true the money market is reacting or a bear cartel is operating where they found an opportunity because the stock is overpriced. Overpricing of a stock is no crime. Many stocks get overpriced even when they are listed. So that is the $100 billion question. And I'm surprised that of all days today, somebody has an objection with you because the headline you have run, is your life saving at risk, is one of the strongest headlines possible for the middle class, for the common man of the country. And we are having a full debate on this issue. Now, are your holdings at risk? Just 2 data points are very important for this. When are we seeing Adani cycle? Because it's a cyclic thing. Just 2 years ago, this date, February 2021, the stock price of Adani Enterprise was 500 rupees or around about that, 510 rupees. So somebody who bought that is still at 1560 rupees. In just a 2-year cycle, in which industry would you be at 3 times jump? I would ask that question. So tomorrow the price could be less, tomorrow the price could be more. Pricing of the stock is not the crime in itself. Is a crime committed or is a bear cartel operating? That is a fair, legitimate question. But when we are dealing with LIC and public money, because that is extremely important, and more Indians are investing in mutual funds, more and more Indians are going to share market because the fixed deposit rates are very low, because the property prices are very expensive. And data shows that 70% of people investing in mutual funds earn less than 5 lakh rupees a year. So that is a significant percentage of Aam Admi investing increasingly in mutual funds. So is public money at risk? As we stand here and we talk
Rahul,
today, the purchase price of LIC as per them is around 30,000. The value is still around 60,000. Exactly. So it is not at risk. It is a double the price, double the profit. So what is the Rahul, UN cry about as of today? Of course, as I started by saying, investigation as per me is required on 2 accounts. If the report is true, of course it has to be investigated. If it is not true, if a bear cartel is operating, if people are systematically trying to destroy Indian market, that also requires an investigation, and people who are trying to do
so
that
let me sum this up, viewers. So in both the question I put, I'm running out of time. Are your life savings at risk? Yes, viewers. If this is a hit job, they are. If it isn't, they are. There's no other answer to this. The only way we can discover this is through an investigation. But I just want to bring some facts on record, viewers, please, because I like to bring the truth right out there, center. Amazon in 2006 had $10,000 million as revenue. In 2021, this is $469,822 million in just 15 years. Tesla revenue was $15 million in 2008, and in 2021 it stood at more than $5 billion. The growth of companies can't be grudged. The growth of ideas cannot be grudged. If you have to measure culpability, etc., it has to be on a different index, viewers. And that is on governance, corporate governance and the values. No doubt, investigate. But who will investigate Hindenburg, viewers, if it's turned out to be a hit job? That's another fundamental question that no one wants to answer. And can you imagine, viewers, in a borderless world today, how many more FPOs or IPOs could be jeopardized in this way? And where are we going to draw the line? What questions are we going to ask? Who are we going to investigate? When? How? This is a nightmare scenario. We already know of InfoWars, viewers. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we are in the midst of one. Whichever way. Maybe it's being launched by the Adanis. Maybe it's through Hindenburg. The Adanis will be brought to book, but what about the Hindenburgs? Viewers, I leave it for you to think this through. This story is not going away anywhere. Tomorrow we will ask the opposition also and the government of India why the government of India is silent and why the opposition has two different standards. Those are legitimate questions. We will ask those. I need to move on, viewers, because there's been a